G'day punters, welcome to Victims of the Punt. We're here to review the Randwick meeting, the Chipping Norton Stakes, as well as the Surround Stakes, two Group 1s there on the card on what was a very wet day in Sydney. Mark Shean, Mark Rhoden here to join me to review this whole entire meeting. Mark Shean, it looked incredibly wet in the lead up to the meeting and then on the day again. How did you find the track?
Yeah, well, I thought it played exceptionally considering the rain. Look, we had a big downpour again here on Saturday morning after, rain Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday through the night as well. And then again, as I said, Saturday morning, and then I got to the races and down it came again. So I think most of us were expecting to go home after about race 2 or 3, but track played remarkably well. In fact, it looked like it evened out throughout the day. Inside looked no good early, but then Tim Clark bit the bullet with Ellsberg, stayed on the fence, and then it looked to be okay from inside to out.
Mark Rhoden, welcome. It was probably one of the more, from a neutral who hadn't necessarily done the form, looked to be one of the more confusing days that I've come across in Sydney of late.
Yes, I think so. I mean, the weather and the track obviously played a part in that, but I was expecting the meeting to be called off. I didn't think they'd even get to race 1, and then I was expecting after each about the first 3 or 4 races, they'd just say call a halt to it. Some of the conditions they were running those early races in were just amazing, but they did an incredible job to get through. It sort of put me in the wrong mindset, though. I reckon I could have backed a few of these winners if I was feeling more confident about the track, but I wasn't. But they've won from all lanes. Some have led, some have come from the back. It's just been. Look, we love to pop the track managers and the tracks in Sydney, but they've done a great job to get through this card.
Well, whatever they've done to the track is, look at the last carnival, it sprinkled there for 5 minutes, one meeting, group meeting, and the track just fell apart completely. I don't know what they've done, but the joint has improved out of sight in the last couple of months.
It certainly has. I mean, next Saturday is going to be a big test because it's not going to be exactly a dry week this week, and back up 7 days later after that is going to be a real test for it.
Okay. Well, let's get started. We will review the races we previewed there on Friday. So the first of those is race 3, the Sweet Embrace over 1200 for the 2-year-old fillies. They've gone slow here to the 600 and punting form starter, 4.8 lengths slow for the class to the 600, and Fireburn for Gary Portelli and Jason Collette has knocked off or held off She's Extreme there in the concluding stages, gap to third, Lady Laguna. Mark Shean, just run us through what you saw there with the 2-year-olds.
Lady Laguna jumped favourite, but she looked, even though she'd won on a heavy 10, she looked in trouble 600 out. She wasn't handling the going at all. Fireburn got a long way back here, but as we've seen with her 2 wins, she's hit the line resolutely, and I suppose in hindsight, you look back, she'd beaten Revolutionary Miss on debut, or Revolutionary Miss was on debut that day, but, she'd come from the back of the field and probably was the one that was definitely going to run a strong 1,200 metres, and Rebel Dane's shown a couple of wet trackers, so she got through the ground quite well. They do look a lot better than the Colts and Gelding. She's Extreme didn't have much luck on debut, just lacked a little bit of turn of foot there at the top of the straight. Was back with the winner, but the winner went home a lot better. Hard to find any excuses for the others. Maybe they just didn't handle the track. Extravagant Star looked to get a soft lead there, but when let down, she just floundered badly.
Yep. Mark Rhoden, the punting form data has the fillies about 1.8 lengths superior to the Colts and Geldings here on Saturday. Is that the way that you saw it?
Yeah, on times you'd have to say that. It's just hard to know. The fillies had the earlier use of the track, so that's the only thing you could really say in the Colts' favour. Just again, none of them are much good. Fireburn's strong. She's Extreme got completely outpaced by Fireburn early in the straight, but then was coming again on the line, so probably looking for a bit more ground. Lady Laguna, I think you knew your fate when McDonald looked to go inside of the top of the straight when all the other ones coming into the race were coming up, down the middle. He knew he wasn't going any good, and thus it proved. And Extravagant Star just was found wanting at the end of the testing 1200 and probably didn't handle the track either. But, the strong one, Fireburn's got through the ground best and won. I mean, how good this form is, how good any of the form is, I don't know in the 2-year-old group.
All right, so if we go to race 4, the Colts and Geldings edition, the Skyline Stakes, they've gone faster here. They've gone even for the class, 1 length slow to the 600, but overall around that 3 or so lengths faster than what the fillies went, but they just haven't finished off here. Promitto's held off, or has defeated Rise of the Masses. Mark Shean, anything to take out of the Colts and Geldings?
Well, I think Mark mentioned this horse in the preview that he thought he had some chance. I actually backed the horse that had beat at Newcastle, thought it was home, Rich on, and Promitto come steaming down the outside and knocked me out. Look, he did settle a lot closer in the run than he did at Newcastle, got it up on the back of the speed when he went up to 1,200 metres, and he went out after Rise of the Masses at the top of the straight there and was able to wear it down. But, I think a lot of these will end up racing midweek by the time they finished racing. Look, Peace Officer again was a little bit luckless, got shuffled back at the top of the straight, made ground late. I think he's got some ability. And Brosnan, the first starter, was jagged right back and made up some ground late. So maybe if they drop back a little notch in grade, they could be competitive. But, a race where they didn't look to be much good before the race, and I think it's panned out that way, considering the times.
Yep. Mark Rhoden, that's certainly the way the data presents.
It is. Promitto probably has a little bit of upside. That's 2 out of 2, and in both cases, his last 100's been pretty strong, which is a good sign. He really runs through the line, so he might be the one in the race that can go on to something a bit better. I certainly don't think he's top class, but he might have something. The horse from Brisbane, Jim Meldy, I think it's called, was pretty tough after a wide run, and Peace Officer was the only other one I mentioned. I know Rob earmarked it as maybe a sire Champagne horse. Perhaps the Champagne won't be far enough for it on this evidence, but it's probably got something. But yeah, pretty average prep again.
Okay, well, there was a small field there for the Liverpool Cup in race 5 over 1,300. They've gone slow for the class, 4 lengths slow to the 600, and as Mark Shean alluded to earlier, Tim Clark was testing the inside there, and there wasn't anything wrong with it. Slow tempo obviously helped, but he's gapped Brutality there in second, Mark.
Yeah, well, the talking point of this race, of course, was Atisha refused to jump, so you've got a $3.80 chance, the second favourite refusing to jump away, and then Ellsberg was just left in front against many horses who were much longer in the betting, and he was able to dictate in front, and as I said, Tim did bite the bullet and stayed on the fence. Not sure if he walked it between races. A lot of the jockeys were doing that through the day, so maybe he thought the inside was okay, and it certainly looked that way after the race, and he just bolted in. Beautiful, magnificent horse he is. Honestly, he's the best type you'll ever see, and he just dictated this race and bolted in. Too good.
Mark Rhoden, anything to take out of this race?
Not really. I think it'll be easy to mark Ellsberg down a bit from face value because of the conditions of the race, with the tissue not jumping and him just basically getting away with complete control of the race. But I think he's gone very well. He might have come back a better horse this time in. It's a bit hard to judge of these fluttering circumstances, but I was, nothing. He was pulling away from them. They weren't making ground on him in the last 200. It was a good win. Look, it wasn't a great field behind him. I thought Brutality wasn't suited back in a slow pace, but I thought he might go a bit better. I thought he was the real wet tracker in the race. Just on Ellsberg on the wet, he was one who'd won on that same Rose Hill track we thought wasn't a heavy 10. So I wasn't potting him on it, but he clearly loves it. So if we get a wet autumn and there's more tracks like this, he'll be in play in some pretty good races.
Speaking of horses that have come back well, Forbidden Love won race 6, which was the Guy Walter over 1,400. Very fast tempo here, 6 lengths fast to the 600, and again settled just behind the leader, peeled out with Hugh Bowman on board and really put them away over the concluding stages. Mark Shean.
Yeah, well, as I said in the previous show, this mare had a bad second up record, but they'd spaced 2 runs and she'd had a nice trial in between. But, look, the weight's got me here. I just thought the 58 might be too much, giving the 4 kilos to the other ones in the market there, Ice Bath, Kiku, and also Promise of Success. But I was totally wrong. She just absolutely cantered behind them. And won as she liked, really. So, look, she did have very good heavy form in the past. She won the Gosford Guineas on a heavy track. I think she won her first start on a wet track as well. So, look, she's a very good mare. She had a bad preparation last time in. She didn't really train on, but she's come back really well this time. Look, I thought the ride on Promise of Success absolutely missed the boat badly at the 600 metres. Instead of half carting and coming out, he allowed himself to be pocketed there. I don't know if it would have troubled the winner, but she certainly should have finished a lot closer. Ice Bath, I thought it was disgraceful under the circumstances. Normally a very good wet tracker, but she was very plain.
Was there anything out of the yard there with Ice Bath?
No, she was fine. Look, she's a big, gross-looking thing, but she looked good in the coat, didn't sweat. I couldn't find anything negative from the yard with her at all. So, yeah, she just put in a bad one there.
Okay, Mark Rhoden, your thoughts here?
Well, I think Mark identified Forbidden Love off her trial before her first up run this prep. Said she might have come back a lot better than the form she showed last time in, and then she was very good behind Overpass that day. I marked that run down, to be honest, because she was in lane 1, which was the fast lane at Rosehill that day, so I thought she might have been flattered, but, well, you can't take anything away from this performance. It was just outstanding. Whether she can repeat it on a drier surface, I don't know, but I'm more inclined to think that she's just absolutely flying and is going to be competitive in anything they put her in now. Promise of success aside from her was run of the race. I backed Kiku, who missed the start and ended up back on the fence, but there was nothing wrong with the fence. The winner was on the fence. She was very ordinary, didn't let down at all, and Ice Bath was no better. I tried to whip round the mid-race, had to do something. The tempo was slow, but Promise of Success just ran straight past her in the last 100. I thought she was very ordinary. I question how well she's going there.
Yep. Career peak for a first up performance, Forbidden Love, and now has recorded a career personal best performance of the day as well in punting form starter, which I'm sure a lot of people have different opinions of given the competitiveness of the next couple of races as well, but certainly a good indication of how well the horse is going. Race 7 was the Chipping Norton over the mile for the Group 1 race. Slow tempo here, best part of 4 lengths slow to the 600, Verry Elleegant. It was just going through her gears nicely, but She's Ideal gave her a bit of a momentary scare there over the concluding stages. Mark Shean?
Yeah, well, I had a bit of a head scratcher for me the first up run. Maybe she stayed in the worst ground and it was a bit more like a barrier trial, so I was bamboozled here. I backed Colette, who unfortunately I backed her before I looked at it in the yard, and I did get off a little bit, but it looked disgraceful in the yard. She does normally sweat up a little bit, but she was an absolute mess by the time they went on the track and raced accordingly. Top Rank was another one who sweated up, was prancing around. He thought he was at stud already. He had the old fella out, and he pulled up lane 3 out of 5 lanes. So I'm not sure where he goes, but look, he's got plenty of ability, but he'll have to sort himself out if he wants to be a racehorse or he wants to be a stallion. She's Ideal, another very good run first up. She's got us, might have got us again here, always flashing home. And then you do your money on her next couple of runs. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll fall in her again, but she's that sort of horse.
I know. Sorry, keep going.
Sorry, go on, you keep going, mate.
I was just going to say there was a couple of really nice late splits there. She's Ideal, 3rd fastest, last 200 on the card. Do I was the 2nd fastest, and Verry Elleegant was the 5th fastest. So some nice splits on.
Well, Duay is absolutely flying at the moment. I think they're heading to the Australian Cup with her. Both her runs this time in have been outstanding. The Apollo Stakes, she was an eye catcher there late, flying home. And I tell you what, if she'd got to the outside earlier rather than being locked up on the fence here, it might have been a different story. It was a fantastic run, but of course it was on wet ground. Whether she can repeat that in Melbourne if they get a dry track down there, but she does look to be ticking over nicely.
Mark Rhoden, what are you doing with the winner here, Verry Elleegant? Obviously it was a, I guess, plain number first up, even if it was in the worst going, but second up the figure as you would expect for her, but she's still got plenty of improvement to come.
Yeah, I just get her wrong constantly, Verry Elleegant. I really don't know what to do with her. I don't think she'd ever, before the Cup, she'd never put in a run that made me think she's an absolute out-and-out champion, and then that Cup win was one of the best I've ever seen. And now she's got the job done on Saturday, but it's just back to that, okay, probably a little bit better than our weight for age horses level. She hasn't brained them. She's beaten She's Ideal by a neck or something. This isn't one of the dominant wins of all time we've seen on Saturday. And it was on her preferred sort of ground. I thought she was entitled to win a bit easier, but she's only second up. She's got other targets. She's the one with more levels in her. If she gets anywhere near that Melbourne Cup level of performance, she'll win her target races, ease down. So she's not there yet, but she's heading in the right direction. A lot of good runs away from her, from the sort of second rank She's Ideal. Obviously, Duay had to change course and hammer it home again, going really well. The Flemington 2000 be right up her street, you'd think, if she gets conditions to suit otherwise. I thought Colette she was sort of held up, wasn't she, Mark? I mean, didn't really see daylight.
Yeah,
Under the stickers.
don't think she was travelling coming to the turn. I think, he was niggling out of there. She just never looked comfortable to me. And, I thought she was beating a fair way out to tell the truth.
Fair enough. Top Rank's good from a bad spot. I didn't see the stewards report that pulled up lame as well, so that's been a good effort. And, well, think it over. I think we can just pin him on anything worse than a soft now. He lobbed in the perfect spot, and if he handled the ground, he would have won from that position, and obviously he didn't.
All right, well, the other Group 1 was a surround race 8 over 1,400. Even tempo here. They've gone 0.9 lengths fast on punting form's data to the 600. And what a nice way to resume riding for Brenton Avdulla, picking up a Group 1 win on Hinged, which was very firm late there in betting. Just continued to trim up as we got closer to jump time. Knocked off Startons from Queensland, and then Espiona in third. Mark Shean, how did you review these?
Well, I did have something on the winner when the fence evened up, I've got to say. $17-18 on Betfair, and she paraded well. So, but I did go looking for a bit of value here when Espiona paraded so badly. First up, she looked great. And on Saturday, she started to sweating between the legs and sweated on her body as well. This was a step back from her first up parade. So I didn't like the look of her at all. And these 1,400, sometimes you just can't make up the ground, can you? You get so far back, and it seems to be that first group around the home turn fight it out. And Hinged just got in a perfect spot here. Great ride from Avdulla, great run from Startons. And Fangirl, I think she just got too far out of the ground, and I'm not going to sack her yet. I think, once she gets to 1,600 or the Vinery or the Storm Queen, whatever they call it, over 2,000 at Rosehill, that should be a perfect race for her, Group 1 race there. But as I said, Espiona paraded poorly, so I don't know whether she's going to go backwards throughout the preparation. We'll just have to look her in the yard next time out.
Yep, absolutely. Mark Rhoden, overall, this race is actually rated pretty well, though. Second best winning performance on the day here by Hinged.
Yeah, I mean, if we're saying Forbidden Love's gone well, they haven't run much slower overall time, off a slower tempo too. So very good effort. Hinged has stamped herself as a superior wet tracker. Did have the favours in the run, courtesy of a very good ride. But look, whenever she gets on the ground, she's going to be in anything. Startonte's fantastic turn of foot in the heavy to just miss. Espiona, right, that's very interesting about the parade. I didn't have Rob on track on Saturday, so I was unaware of that. Not that I was ever going to back her. Startonte completely out-sprinted her. She lay in again when he asked for an effort, which he did first up as well. Yep. I wonder whether blinkers might be the next step for her. That she already wears a lugging bit, but she's still doing a lot wrong in her races. Perhaps the blinkers go on as a last resort. I don't know, but yeah, look, I don't like it when they weigh in when they're asked for an effort. I think it's a sign of some sort of weakness. So I'm jury out with her and forgiving, at least to some extent, a Fangirl from the spot she got into. But yeah, big question mark on Espiona. I think we can safely say she's not Winx, but how far she's going to progress now, we have to wait and see.
Okay, well, let's round off the card with race 9, just purely for the fact that the horse that won has produced a pretty reasonable figure here on debut in Australia. Surefire for Chris Waller, very fast tempo, 7.4 lengths fast to the 600. Mark Shean, I'll just get a comment on this winner.
Yeah, well, he'd been very dour in his trials, but obviously they were over a lot shorter than the 2,000 metres that he ran on Saturday. And look, although they did look like a mob of hurdlers there at one stage up the straight, there was 7 across the track there at one stage. But look, he's a fast-net rock. He's a big, strong horse, so he might have a bit of upside. He'd won 4 out of 6 now, so hard to pot a stayer that's won 4 out of 6. So obviously heading towards the Sydney Cup, as many of these will be. Galaxy Bell was a bit of a tough watch, stepping up from midweek company, but had a bit of a checkered passage. And the other one that ran third, La Bolle, it sweated up quite badly and looked to me to have plenty of improvement. So only second up from a spell. So they've run first and third, and probably with improvement, both of those. So probably they're the ones to look out for. Yeah, heavily backed again and went even worse than it did last start.
Mark Rhoden, could you get a line at all through this winner through its performances there in the UK?
I think it's gone better than, well, it's a bit of guesswork, but on the time form equivalence, it's probably done better than it had over there. But if you look at his form inning, when he'd taken a step forward almost, well, in all of his 5 starts, he just kept improving, and looks like he's going to carry on that improvement. They've gone at a pretty good clip for a 2,000 metre race here, which can make straight time analysis a bit misleading, as so many middle distance races have slowly run. But no, I think he's got something. And just taking a line through Galaxy Bell, we sort of know how good her best is, and she was a touch unlucky. But that gives us a bit of a line on how good Surefire is. I think the form for benchmark class will be okay out of this race. I mean, no one had any idea in this race, pre-race, obviously. They backed bloody to start at favourite or second favourite. That's how desperate they were to try and find something to win the race. So, I think the winner's got something, but the rest of them will just be, competitive in the benchmark races, I suppose.
Okay. We'll wrap it up there. We'll get a couple of horses to follow from each of you going forward. Mark, Shean, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I thought probably Peace Officer out of race number 4, but we're talking the Colts and Gilders aren't much chop, so he'd have to probably come back a notch. Yeah, it wasn't a day that, there were a lot of flashing lights, but we're going to get a wet track again in the next couple of weeks, you would think, so maybe this form will stand up on wet ground.
Yep. Mark, Rhoden?
Look, Forbidden Love, she's much better than I thought she was, and... look, I'd just say, don't fall into, this is more a note for myself than anyone else, I suppose, don't fall into the trap of marking down Ellsberg too much because he had a soft run on Saturday. I think he went pretty well as well.
Okay. All right. Look, as you mentioned, wet week ahead. We've got the couple of Group 1s there with the Randwick Guineas and then also the Canterbury Stakes. Mark, Shean, we just have to see how the week unfolds, I guess, more than anything.
Yeah, well, it rained yesterday and it rained again this morning. And I think the forecast is rain for every day. So I don't think we're going to get much improvement. And Profondo looks like he might head to Melbourne now. Trialled this morning, but probably off to Melbourne rather than running on the bog on Saturday.
Okay, we'll wait and see what the fields look like there when they're announced on Wednesday. Guys, have a good week. We'll catch up on Friday and preview that meeting in the morning.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.